And welcome everybody. I'm Anthony at ECF. I hope everybody's having a good evening. Uh, we got a little bit different topic this evening. I, I'm not really hitting a stump in the road when it comes to the Revelation study, but now it's then kind of got into some detailed things. So I need to do a little study on specific topics. But I want to start this sort of a mini series, and I want to introduce our guest here in just a moment. But we're going to talk about uh, like meeting people online and things like that. How can we trust them? Do we know if we're meeting a person? Is this the bot and stuff like that? And what are some things to kind of look into about that? But I want to bring on our guest Josh and let him introduce himself. Welcome, Josh. It's been a pleasure to speak with you for a few minutes before the stream. But if you like, you could introduce yourself and maybe tell everybody where to find you and maybe any content that you might have out there. And maybe we could kind of get into the story about what you might have experienced a little while back on this topic.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, my name's Josh, and I do have content that I put out. It gets scrubbed from the net a lot because it's controversial content. So I've had like my podcast, 25 episodes, scrubbed from the net. I've had 4 Facebook accounts deleted. My TikTok account got permanently banned. An Instagram account got scrubbed. But I usually go by pirate radio on like Instagram. I'm also on BitChute and Spotify, and I put out little podcasts and videos. So maybe I can shoot you some links, and if anybody's interested, you can share them with them, because it might be hard to find me, because I'm constantly getting scrubbed and censored and deleted and pushed to the bottom of the feeds and algorithms and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah, definitely send me those links, and if anybody after the show, I'll put them in the description, and that'd be a lot easier way for them to find you.
Absolutely.
But anyway, continue, brother.
Appreciate that. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a little bit about, me and where to find my content. Where do you want me to start? What do you want me to tell you about the whole deal with meeting people online? Because I've had a couple different scenarios, that I can go into.
Oh man, I was going to read the post. Oh, here it is. Okay, I put a Facebook post out the other day, just kind of wondering, has anybody experienced meeting someone on social media like Facebook or YouTube, or even like a dating app of sorts, which I don't really want to get into them because some of them are pretty rough. They ought to be self-explanatory in my opinion. But when it comes to things like Facebook and stuff, I've met a few people in person that I've met on Facebook, turned out to be a really good thing, good friends and brothers and sisters that we've had good interactions with. I've also met people that have not been so great. But I made a post the other day, and I'll read it right quick. It says, "Has anyone ever found a real life, true, sure enough, significant other on Facebook? I'm curious to know, and would you be interested in sharing your story on YouTube? If not, that's cool too." And Josh and I started interacting on that post, and it sounded like he kind of has experienced something like that before, and
yeah,
interested to
definitely.
hear your story.
Yeah, so since you mentioned Facebook specifically, right? Because I do have one story with Facebook, and then one story from a dating app, but not one of the ones where it's more geared towards like hooking up and stuff, like a more legit app looking for relationships. But the Facebook one was, it was during the whole COVID thing, right? And in 2020, early part of 2020, when they're locking everybody down and forcing everybody to wear masks and all that stuff. And my entire family, I lived by myself, and just people around me, my friends, all of them went in the direction of fear, in the direction of obedience towards what the TV was telling them. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that I kind of saw it a little differently personally, and it made me feel really isolated, right? And I ended up becoming so isolated that I don't know. I started probably making impulsive decisions that I wouldn't normally make, or reaching out for, connections that I normally wouldn't reach out for because of how isolated and, depressed I was becoming due to that isolation. Right. So
Right.
um, I started adding random people on Facebook that had mutual friends. And as when you start doing that more, you see more people with mutual friends, and it would build up to like 5,000, friends, the max, just so I would have people to, interact with, to prevent myself from going crazy in the isolation. Right. So,
Know that feeling.
right. And then you can actually find people that, agree with you and share that mentality, and kind of iron sharpens iron, right? When you get around somebody
Exactly.
who thinks like you, but maybe just a little different, you can learn from each other, right? And I built a brand new kind of online family that replaced all the old friendships in my life. And in doing that, I started interacting with a female. I was in Illinois at the time, right across the river from St. Louis, Missouri. And the girl was in Folsom, California. And um, at first, I think I messaged her because I thought she looked cute and had something about Buddhism and sound healing on her profile, which was really interesting to me because I research like cymatics and ancient philosophies and sound healing and things like that in my free time, among many other
Check it
things.
all out, huh?
Yeah, yeah, everything, man. Ancient Eastern knowledge, sound healing, which is really just cymatics, like the study of sound vibration and how that affects cells in the body, how it affects
Yeah.
water, how it affects matter, how it determines shape, sound, and color. Even it's just all frequency. Like Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Right? It's all
Right.
electromagnetic, light, and yeah. Anyway, um, so I started connecting with people based on intellectual, connections, deep stuff, not surface level stuff. That, when I was around my family, they wanted to talk about what they heard on CNN and or Fox, or the ball game or the weather, and it's like, man, I don't have time for that anymore because like things are getting serious out here. It's like I know you get into Revelation and stuff, and I'm not a Bible thumper, but I believe there's truth in all ancient texts, and there's a lot of truth in that book. And it sure seems like we're in the end times right now because everything's backwards and inverted and perverted and disgusting and
Right.
gross. And so to connect with people who see that rather than just have this veil of illusion over their eyes and don't see what's going on, it meant a lot to me. And we started chatting a lot. And then you mentioned, how do you make sure somebody's real, right? Well, I mean, we all have the technology nowadays to just do a video call with somebody, right? So I just started doing video calls with her, and we would do a video call every day. And it just got to the point where it's like, man, I really want to go meet you, right? And I just
Right.
it worked out. The it's funny the way it worked out. So she had we were making plans to meet, and it was kind of getting like more serious. And she's like, hey, I have to tell you something, because I didn't anticipate this getting serious. But before we started talking, I had made plans with an ex, right? Because I guess she was like isolated and depressed too and wanting connection, right? um,
Yeah.
and she's like, we made plans to just like little mini vacation together, where we rented a Airbnb at a couple different places, and we're just gonna go like stay at these Airbnbs and in these different towns near us, and kind of have like a week where like a little mini local getaway, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that's rough, because they're gonna be like staying in this, it just there's just imagine where your head could go with that if you think you're getting serious with somebody, and then they tell you, hey, I'm gonna be staying in the same room with my ex on like a little vacation, right, for 3 nights. It's like, that's kind of, you know. But at the same time, before she started talking to me, they had already bought and paid for all this stuff and made the plan. So it's like, you can't, like, what do you do? It's tough, right? So
Yeah.
I said, well, hey, look, I'll take his place and I'll get out there and do that if that can be arranged. And she was like, oh, he's already bought his plane ticket and everything, and it would be a really jerk move, and she didn't know what to do. And then like 48 hours or something, maybe a little bit longer before that, she says, "Hey, can you be here by such and such date?" It was right around the 4th of July in 2020. I said, "What happened?" I guess because of the COVID pandemic. Yeah, pandemic. I mean, yeah.
There you go.
Well, sorry, man. I get mixed up on how I say stuff sometimes. Earlier, you said the judicial system. Sometimes I put
Yeah.
accents on the wrong syllables, right? And I put the accent on the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and I say the judicial system, right? It's just I can't control sometimes these verbal slip ups. But
Oh,
anyway,
I think I have the same trouble with the English language. It's probably the furthest from the original language there is.
well, yeah,
And
and
it's
it's
probably a good thing that we struggle.
well, the thing is when you play around with language, you learn how it all connects because we all had one language at one point before the confusion of the tongues after the flood, you know.
Right.
And when you realize that in ancient Hebrew, right, which is very close to the Proto-Indo-European language, which is very close to the ancient like Finnish and Celtic language, which is very close to the runes, and it all kind of Punic and runic, it all kinds of connects. There used to not be vowels. Everything was just consonants, and vowels were added later to force people to pronounce things certain ways. So when you think of words like, you know, Yahovah and Yahweh and Jehovah and Jupiter, Zeus Pater, Deus Peter, right? You start to understand how even the consonants sometimes, like think about Spanish people, like they say Bianca or Bianca. Sometimes you can't tell the difference between the V's and the B's. Or vampires from
Right.
Transylvania, like I want to suck your blood. Or there's just all kinds of things like that where like Chinese people, right? They say, I really, really, really like you, right? They can't say the L's, right? So when you
Right.
start to play around with switching out consonants and vowels, and you can discover a lot about how words and languages and cultures connect if you want. But
No doubt.
yeah,
And they also can get us in a lot of trouble too when we mispronounce those words. Like really, uh, I can't think of one just right off, but like if we uh two, the word two, like it's spelt so many different ways, but it sounds the same. So how do you know what we're referring to? You know, are we saying also? Are we saying going
well, I
to a
got a good
place?
one. I
Or
got a good one
how
for you
many of
because
them?
these language wizards that these phony Phoenician little wizards, RH negative giant redhead slavers that kind of developed our language, in my opinion, really really played tricks on us, even with the words themselves. So like, think about this: we work all week so that we're weak and weakened by the weekend, right? And
Hmm.
then we sit down and we turn on the television, right? So it can broadcast, right? Their programs on different channels, right? And
Yeah.
people don't even think about all this stuff, right? But it's not a coincidence. People will laugh when they hear this stuff for the first time, but then the more you hear it and the more you realize how crafty and intentional it is, we wake up in the
It-
morning. We're so sad in the morning, right? Because we're
yeah.
mourning because it's morning, right? It's
And
it's
we have
everywhere.
break fast, right?
Right, we break our fast with our food in the morning, right? Yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's programming right there, man, in our language. But where was I with this story? I don't want to get too far off the subject
Oh,
at
that's
hand.
okay. But I do have a question for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
right quick. Uh, you were talking about how you more and more you developed a family online. Like you would, it's like the people around you. Did you feel as though they just didn't really get you, or it's just you didn't feel right being around them? I mean, how do you
Well,
have conversations with somebody that
yes.
don't know the things that we really study into? It's really difficult. So
If it's
I
important
feel
to
you
you,
there
and
because
it's
I did
yeah,
the same thing, brother.
yeah. Well, so I appreciate that question. So I'll try to be delicate as possible about this because I don't want to offend anybody, right? Because everybody, I don't claim to know the truth. I just know how the puzzle lines up for me and what my soul, screams at me from inside, right? Um, I'll say it was a pandemic, and I'll say that there's certain demographics that don't get jabs, and a lot of them have a mysterious absence of chronic diseases such as autism, and other diseases. Um,
Right.
One of those cultures, those subsets of people, are the Amish people. I know that's a small sample size, but there's also been studies done during the Spanish flu by the military, where they took snot, blood, and mucus, and injected all that stuff at different times into 50 different volunteers that were healthy in an attempt to prove that they could transmit the flu. And none of these volunteers got sick. They even had them cough straight into the face of these volunteers. And you can find this study online. It was done in the military. It's really hard to find because, I have to go to a different search engine like Brave instead of Google. And then I have to like type in exactly what I'm looking for and then scroll way down to
Yeah.
find it. But it's
No
there.
doubt.
It's just it's there, but they hide it pretty well. And then
Yep.
there's a doctor called Dr. Andrew Kaufman, who is a virologist who claims that viruses are just misunderstood and mislabeled as it's Latin is the term. It's a noxious substance or a poison, which
Mm.
sounds a lot like a toxin, right? And he says that viruses are actually exosomes that attach to toxins and help expel them from our body, and not contagious at all. It's actually a sign of us getting healthy when we get the flu because we're sweating out all those toxins. It's our body. So, and to kind of I get sick from when somebody else in my family gets sick and I catch it from them. Well, girls with their menstrual cycles sync up when they get in the same house, but they didn't catch their cycle from somebody else, right? A pheromone or a chemical in their bodies told each other, hey, let's sync up for certain reasons, right? And it could
Right.
happen the same way with detoxing. Plus, everybody that lives in the same house usually eats the same things and is exposed to the same toxins, so they probably detox at similar times. Now, think about this. Flu season is when? Let's say January, February, end of December, somewhere in
I
there,
don't really keep up with
towards the
it,
end
but
of
I
the year,
think
beginning.
so.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is. But anyway, it's right after three major holidays where we binge with sugar, alcohol, fat, and don't get a lot of sun or exercise. So we're talking about Halloween,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, and Christmas, right? Where we drink a lot of liquor. Most of us, not everybody. The ones that get sick do. The healthy people don't. They don't go outside for exercise. They don't get sunshine. It's these lazy months where we eat a lot of sugar, fat, candy, meat, and by January, February, the bodies can't handle it anymore. So they start this detox process where you detox these, all this stuff that's in your body that the sun and
You know,
exercise haven't detoxed yet.
since I stopped doing those particular pagan days, since I stopped, I don't think I've been sick since. I mean, sure enough, I get to
Since you stopped what?
feeling bad sometimes. I don't think I've been sick, like ill, ever since I stopped doing the pagan feast days, the like Xmas and Ishtar Day and stuff like. I mean, Easter and
Because
when
it's
I was
just a
supposed to
way to,
say the names of
all they're
those.
doing is putting a bunch of sugar in our bodies, man. That's all it is. Their
Yeah.
revenue and ritual. They do a lot of rituals too behind those holidays, but they mock us a lot, man. But
Right.
um, yeah. So anyway, in addition to that, the guy who developed the PCR test straight up said that you're not supposed to amplify these results more than 25 times. They were amplifying the results 40 plus times. And he even said, Kerry Mullis, he said, you can find whatever you want in the human body if you amplify it enough, because there's trace elements of just about everything. But the detection of those elements don't indicate that you're sick. So the whole thing is a scam. It's like there was 30 million people that died of the flu every year leading up to 2020. And then in 2020, nobody died of the flu and 30 million people died of COVID in America. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just they just relabel this and then they create a bunch of fear porn behind it by the placebo effect is real. Faith healing is real. You can give somebody a sugar pill and tell them they're going to get better. If they believe hard enough, they will get better. That's the placebo effect. It works with faith healing. It's quantum physics. So the reverse is true
It.
too. If they program us with
Yes.
fear, the nocebo effect works and we can make ourselves sick through stress.
I really do believe that. Like we could sit here and think, oh, I've got a headache. I've got a headache. I got a headache. But if we dwell on that, eventually we will manifest that headache within us. I absolutely
Yeah.
believe that. And if we don't ever think that we're going to get sick, most of the time we don't. And don't get me wrong, people get sick. I mean, that's just a natural thing. Like you say, it's a detox. But without getting too far off the topic, uh, or onto that topic,
Yeah.
um, what would you recommend that? Which I've got a few questions. This might be one of them at the end. I want to ask 5 questions. Um, but like, what are some things to, like you said, video text
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
video chatting and stuff like that? You know, you're talking to a real person. Now, this should work. This should be something for both men and women. Okay, we shouldn't just go out somewhere and meet somebody we've never known, especially several states away or something, without at least letting somebody know where we're going. Like, let people know
Oh yeah,
because
for sure. And talk on video before you go, because anybody can catfish with pictures and words, but it's really hard to pull off through a video chat.
mhm. uh, I don't really want to talk about this particular topic too much, but we all know about the child abductions and things and stuff like that going on in this country. It's not only children, so
Nope, nope.
they
Women got to be
they
careful for sure.
men too,
Yeah,
men too. I mean, there's not as high of a demand, but still, men need to be, need to think out aloud too. If we're alone, it's best to just kind of watch our surroundings, and
yeah,
that's men and women both. But when it goes to meeting people on social media, I've met people that I thought I knew for a long time, but then whenever I actually talked to them or met them in person or something like that, they were totally different. But I've also met people online that were
yeah.
exactly like how they were online in real life. I mean, identically. So
Well, but the same thing happens in real life. You meet people who put up a front to impress you and be, get on your good side, and get you to like them, and because they're manipulative, like, and then you learn their true personality later, after they sucked you in, so I think that's a risk whether you do it in real life or over the internet, don't you?
it is a risk, and if we walk outside our door, pretty much it's a risk, yes. But if we're in our hometown, chances are somebody's going to see us or know know somebody to contact if we get in any kind of trouble or something. I mean, it's just a higher possibility or
Yeah,
probability
well,
that
another
something like that
another
would happen.
thing is if you're worried about it or you're concerned, then meeting somebody in a public place for the first couple times is another very proactive precaution someone could take, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to
And
move halfway across the country and to meet somebody online. You can meet somebody a little closer. Let's say they live an hour away, and you meet halfway in the middle, for a coffee or something, and instead of jumping straight to something risky where you might be at somebody's home or meeting in private or something.
right, right. Um, well, I think we covered a few precautions there, and if we think of anything else, we're happy to share it. But get into these questions a little bit, and we might can conversate on a few of them a little bit. It says, would you say that social media, as far as actually meeting others on it, has been a more wholesome type of interaction, or do they generally seem off or possibly even dangerous? Like, would you consider meeting people or visiting with people online as being like more of a safer environment than something like going to a bar room or a club or even out to the movies these days? I mean, supposedly they're busting in with assault rifles and stuff, but I don't
I mean,
necessarily believe that. But
if you're talking about just interaction and not whether it be online only and not meeting somebody, of course it's safer to interact online than to go out to a bar, right? But that transition of the risk comes when you go to meet that person. But um, I feel like it's, to me, it comes down, my comfortability, my level of comfort with meeting people comes from my level of authenticity, right? I am so authentic in my online presence and in my interaction with people. I don't hold back how I feel. I don't worry about whether people like me or not. That
Right.
kind of vibe and that kind of energy pushes away and screens out anybody who's there for the wrong reasons, you know?
Yeah.
And the connections that I end up forming become more meaningful and deeper connections because your vibe attracts your tribe. And, you know, if you're wearing your heart on your sleeve, people are going to see that. People are going to be attracted to that. And you're going to form more genuine and more meaningful relationships, whether it's in person or whether it's in, you know, online. But I think it's safer to do it online as long as you're not worried about, you know, what people will think, right? If you're
Right.
weird, you know, because I'm excuse me, I'm weird.
Hey, we're all weird to somebody, right? I got kind of this little idea in my head. If you can show me two people that agree on everything, I want you to see. I want to see them both in a padded room with some boxing gloves for a week.
We'll get them to fight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We wouldn't have to get them to. It eventually somebody's going to run across something they disagree with somebody else. But like you said earlier, you know that iron sharpens iron. When two people can come together and discuss their disagreements, usually most of the time people find out they're both wrong and there's some other answer. But I can't say that's always the answer. But usually when people do come together and discuss it, one or the other is going to start to see the other's viewpoints, and a lot of times it could lead to something pretty beautiful from discussing things like that. And I would definitely agree with you that like being online dating, or whether it be on social media or something like that, would definitely be a lot safer from the beginning for sure. Because, like, for example, going out to a bar room, you don't know if somebody's just going to walk up behind you and knock you out. You know, they've been drinking. I don't drink anymore. I used to.
Mhm.
I used to be in a bar room, and I've had more people just walk up to me wanting to start a fight for no
Yeah, yeah.
reason, and it's just not fun. But
In alchemy, okay, in alchemy, there's different levels of the alchemical process. There's like 7 stages, and one of the stages of the alchemical transformation of all matter, whether it be light or physical matter, is the distillation. And distillation is how we get spirits, which is what alcohol is, right? And
right,
those things really, man, they're the lowest vibrational type of intoxicant one can take. And I think that they really do cause that distilled spirit of that rotten fruit that it which is needed to make it to kind of take over our personalities, you know, and enhance the negative aspects, whether it be aggression or sadness or whatever it is.
I totally agree. I really do. But I
But I don't
think
drink either.
I think that if we do it in moderation, we can control it a little better. And when we do that, I think it brings out some good aspects of people too. Because how many people do you know is just going to lie all day when they're drunk or something? Most of the time, when people are talking when they've been drinking a
They
lot, they're
get more
telling the truth.
honest. Yeah. But
Exactly, they're
the
honest.
same happens with psychedelics, including, you know, mushrooms, LSD, uh, and ecstasy, or, you know, and they've done like legit medical experiments and studies in the Western world that
Hmm.
show how
I think I might have
therapeutic
been
those
one of those
things.
experiments.
Yeah, that show how therapeutic they are as far as getting people to open up and then be honest. You know. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't mean to condemn or judge anybody who uses alcohol. I just it's a personal choice that I don't.
Right.
And part of it's because of the sugar too. I only get my sugar from fresh organic fruit. White refined sugar and sugar from alcohol is just, in my opinion, in my research, it's food for parasites. So try to avoid it.
Yeah. Well, I actually do drink a little bit of alcohol still. I drink a little wine. Usually it'll be on a Sabbath or on Passover or something like that. You know,
Well,
um,
that's not the same as a
it,
distilled spirit. There are different types of alcohol. So
right
wine's
now.
actually,
Now
yeah,
I'm also not doing that for religious purposes. I'm
right.
really doing it because yes, I enjoy it. It relaxes me. It puts me in tune with myself and with the Almighty. You know, so
Great.
hey,
No
I'm here
judgment.
by
Yeah.
myself. I'm not going anywhere. I ain't hurting nobody. So
Good for you.
I
Yeah,
don't see nothing
100%.
wrong with it. But
I do
But I
that. Hey,
definitely
listen,
agree with you when it's overdone like that, you can't control it no more. And if
mm,
we do keep it in moderation, we can control it instead of letting it control us.
and the same thing is true with every single thing you can think of, pretty much.
100%.
You can, food in moderation, you live off of it and it makes you healthy. If you abuse it, then you get fat and sick, right?
Right.
You talked about alcohol. We could talk about some of the other plant medicines too that in moderation help us connect with divinity or source or God. Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Hmm. That is right. Well, let's see. What's the next question? And by the way, for anybody that's listening in, these questions are gonna be kind of what we cover in all of this series. This is just kind of gonna be the base question. And I don't know who's calling me during this time, but anyway, what are some of the possible telltale signs would you say to look for in a person that you may be considering actually meeting online? What are some ways that we talked about that, how video calling and stuff like that were some good ones that we did cover that. We'll move on to the next one. We kind of beat that one in the ground a little bit. It says oftentimes on social media the person is rather long distance away from us. How far should a person go in order to actually meet another person? And should it be a halfway thing, or like meet in the middle? Now, me personally, I think it should be a halfway thing. If we're traveling across country, it'd be a fun
Well,
trip for each of us.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's funny because this kind of allows me to jump back into the point of the story where I left off, right? Because she was in
All
Folsom.
right.
She was in Folsom, and I was in Illinois. Right? Illinois to California is like more than halfway across the country, right? And
Yeah.
the person she arranged to go on this little Airbnb vacation with, uh, their flight got canceled because of COVID, right at the last minute. And so if I could make it out there within like 36 hours, I could go with her, right? So I had to round up some money and get a bus Greyhound ticket and
Oof.
get over there. And I did, and I made it. And it was I was so in such a jaded and disgruntled uh, position with society and with everybody, my family, who, because of my views, thought I was crazier on drugs, right? Um, that my mentality was that I'm not really in a financial position to come back. So I'm whatever I can bring in my suitcase out there, I'm bringing it. And in my mind, we're just going to hit it off, and I'm going to stay out there. I'm going to find a way to stay out there, and who cares about whatever material possessions I have to leave behind here, right? As I abandon this apartment, right, that the government's paying for because of like the COVID stuff, because I was renting, right? Um,
Right.
so that's what I did, and so I would definitely, in ideal situation, recommend people to meet halfway if they can. But this was a very unique situation, and I just kind of put my cards on the table and risked it for the biscuit, and figured you only live once, and went out there, and
There you go,
I
brother. I like the
yeah
way you put that too. You only live once. I think that if we back down from possible opportunities, we might miss it. You know, it might not come back around. What we got there?
scarab. They love me. These scarabs love me. They don't hound my roommates, but anytime I'm outside, they always come and land on me. Some two at a time. It's
Huh.
crazy. Yeah. The Egyptians
I'll be.
revered the scarabs, but anyway, I don't know. Interesting.
One day
Sorry
we can
about that.
talk about why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can. We could.
yeah, Osiris story.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Um,
Um, yeah. So as far as meeting halfway is ideal, but I couldn't do that. So yeah. And then like you said, you only live once. Sometimes gotta you gotta buy a ticket to win.
that's right. That's right. And another thing is, if we'll never know. I got a way of putting this, but we'll never know what the outcome will be if we don't try. If we don't try, we've already failed. So
Yeah,
there's always that to consider.
you can live in fear, and have your decisions motivated by fear, or you can live in love and have your decisions motivated by love. It's sometimes it boils down to be that simple. And I just feel like if you're really really authentic, and you're operating from a position of, I don't need anything, right? So nobody can take advantage of me. The only way I'm going to allow somebody else in my space is if they vibe high enough to where they're worthy of being in my space, right? So if we don't make
Yes.
ourselves vulnerable and needy, then it's easier to not ignore red flags and fall into these traps where you could meet somebody who's going to be manipulative, right?
Right. We ought to be diligent, right? We got to use discernment, but um, sometimes that's pretty difficult to do with people, even if you've known them for a long time. So I've noticed anyway.
Well, look, I mean,
Um,
I was with my girlfriend, prior to that I met on a dating app for about 4 years, right? And at first, everything was great, and I thought I wanted to marry the girl. Then, after we moved in together, it was like there was a problem with everything I did. If I cleaned this, I missed a spot. If I did the dishes, I forgot to put one away. If I suggested a place to go out to eat, it wasn't the one she was thinking about, and um, nothing was ever good enough. And she was always depressed and nagging and negative once we moved in together, no matter what I did, right? And I didn't, I went months hanging out with this girl and thinking that I was going to marry her, and then realizing when I moved in with her that I couldn't, right? So
yeah.
compare that to investing a lot less time just meeting somebody online, and you could get fooled in the first time you meet them, the second time you meet them, or you could get fooled 4 6 months in when you move in together. You don't know.
There you go. Yep. No doubts
Or
about
you
that,
couldn't get
brother.
fooled and it could work out and you could meet the love of your life and your soulmate and live in happily ever after in bliss. But you know you never know.
Yep. Well, uh, I think that's pretty good points there because yeah, it's just we never know until we find out though. But the last question and is to would you say things like social media and dating apps within reason have been helpful or harmful to the way people interact with one another? And I know we covered that just a little bit. It's a little safer, initially.
But it's more superficial, and it creates this false sense of infinite choices, and it makes people disposable, right? um,
Hmm.
in my opinion, right? You don't see these people on the other side of the screen as people. You don't treat them with the respect and the love and the attention and the care and the um, that you would if you were talking to somebody in person. And it's almost dehumanizing, and it creates this sense of infinite options where if anything's wrong with this person that I'm talking to now, well, there's a million other ones and a million other apps and a million other choices. Uh, it, it allows it, it allows for that mentality more. And I think, unfortunately, it's kind of like people are stuck between a rock and a hard place, because as things become more digitized and more people become more wired and programmed and used to, and it's culturally the thing to interact via social media and via text rather than face to face. It's going to be harder to meet people face to face, and people are going to lose their social skills, as
Yeah,
far as being able to make those connections out in public. And ultimately, I think it's a bad thing. But because of the way whoever's controlling the agenda of this world is tweaking the policies, and forcing the lockdowns and forcing the masks, which seem to be coming back again, and forcing the paranoia and forcing the fear of each other. Um, it's kind of forcing our hand to where it becomes harder and harder to meet somebody in real life in person. Um, so yeah, it's rough. It's
I
rough.
agree.
It's not good, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, meet people online, I guess. But um, I agree that it does take the human interaction out of it, and that I think that's something this whole world desperately needs today: human interaction. Just it, even if it's just getting on the phone and talking with somebody, I find a lot of times tends to help people out, because we were talking about earlier how you just became less and less wanting to be involved with the people around you because of the things you were looking into, and I get it. I did the same thing. And as soon as you open your mouth about it, well, people are going to look at you, ostracize you. They don't want to have nothing to do with you. They talk bad about you behind your back, and the rumors start. And especially if you live in a small town, everybody hates you at that point. But when I got, I stay on Discord a lot, and we have a pretty good, like a Bible study family type, what I really consider my family. I don't really have much family anymore. My
Hmm.
aunt, she's been real helpful and very good to me. I still consider her my family, but as far as the rest of my family, I don't have any. And it really helped me in a time where I needed to talk with somebody with like minded. I needed that. I was going crazy without it, and
I'll,
the
yes.
Discord and the Facebook and the YouTube, that helped a lot, but it's still not human interaction. It When I went to the Take on the World conference in 2021, I actually felt love from people, and it's a physical feeling. Like you can tell that this person actually cares about you. When they ask you how your
Yes.
day's going, they
Yes.
really want to know. And that was what I've been missing my entire life. And I just wish everybody could experience something like that at least once in their life, so they'll know. And we need to get back to that, in my opinion. I don't recommend bar rooms and stuff like that, but I do recommend the human interaction, um,
Yeah,
a
and it's
lot
just
more than
yeah,
what's going on these days.
yeah, and you said it. It's like people were so starved for that interaction during the early parts of 2020 when the lockdowns were really going on. Um, I would, stream myself live on Facebook every day playing guitar or walking at the park and showing people the baby ducks and the flowers and stuff like that because I wasn't afraid to get out, right? I would have interactions with the cops and I would film it live, and walk into places without my mask on and see what happened. And, just I had two separate people told me that if it wasn't for me, they would have been so depressed that they would have killed themselves. So that gave me so much inspiration to continue being exactly my authentic self,
Wow,
and
really?
not care what anybody else thinks about anything. Because if I do nothing in this world except for save two people's lives, and those are just people who told me. Imagine how many other people we touch. Not just me, but you, anybody that we touch people even if we don't realize it, and those things spread like ripples, like the butterfly effect, right? And it's not
Yes.
the same as interacting in person because I still needed to move to freaking California from Illinois to get that physical interaction because all my interaction was online. But as I said earlier, we are vibrational electromagnetic beings full of electricity. And we have a vibrational aura, an energetic field around us that emanates for about 6 feet. This is, there's CIA documents that show this, and the ancient Vedic Indian texts show this. And that's why they want us 6 feet apart, right? That's why there was this 6 feet distancing rule. Because, like you said, when somebody
Exactly.
cares about you, right, somebody's vibrating high and they're full of love and positive energy, they get close enough to you, whether it's a look in the eyes or a handshake or a hug, you feel that.
You really can.
And this
Yeah.
touch isn't even
I
needed, but it makes it more intense.
Right. And look, it's just, and you can also feel hatred coming off people too.
Oh
If
yeah, man. If you get in tune, if you really like live in tune with like source and your true nature and like authenticity, um, the maker starts revealing himself in everything, and you know what I mean, you start
I
noticing these
do.
little synchronicities and these tests and these lessons and these rewards and these blessings that only get revealed to you to confirm that you're on the right path as you continue to walk that more narrow path with what you should be doing with your life, if you do it and abide by what your soul's telling you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I I think you said earlier that we might disagree on things. I don't think we really do. I think I've disagreed with. I think I've agreed with just about everything. But right quick, before I lose the top part of the chat, I've got a few people I want to shout out. Jane, I don't know if she made it back. Jane, it's good to see you. And a cowboy's hippie life, good to see you, brother. Just met him the other day. He's got a YouTube channel. Checking it out. Pretty good so far. Robert Johnson, hello. ELOAA Ministries, good to see you. Dave Mounts, the Gospel of Rant Jams, good to see you, brother. And let me see it. Does anybody have any questions that they might want to ask? Oh, Bunghole, Super Dave, 44, good to see you. Wind
You got
Feather.
you got TP from my bunghole. I like that cowboy hippie. I just went and saw a Grateful Dead tribute band over the weekend and danced my head off, and that's one of the ways I can commune with spirit or let the Holy Ghost flow through me is through music. I find it very healing. All that, the vibrations and the joy that it brings.
Absolutely. And I used to be a musician as well. For about 3 years, I picked a guitar up, and I just had. Let me back up a little further. I'm sorry. Um, I've always wanted to play music, but I've never really been allowed to. My aunt bought a keyboard when I was real young, about 8 to 10. I don't know, somewhere around in there. And I was learning on it a little bit. That went on for just a very short time, a couple of months maybe, and didn't do that anymore. But then way later on in life, I met this guy. Was in a band. We drove, we run together driving trucks and stuff. And he says, "Hey, you ought to come check out our band sometime." I said, "Man, I don't really care for that and stuff like that. I like music, but I don't like live bands. It's so loud. You can't scream over the music a lot of times." So anyway, he talked me into it, and man, I was blown away. Them guys were good. I was like, wow, I wish I could do that. And he said, "You can." That was the first person that ever actually said that. Everybody else said, "Oh, no, you can't ever do it. You ain't got it in you. You don't know what you're talking about." Well, I believe that because I've been told that my whole life. But then when that guy said, "You can do it," never heard
Well, hey,
that before. Let's
let
try.
that be a lesson to everybody, right? And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody else telling you or it's your own internal dialogue, right? Whether you think you
Yeah,
can, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right either way. So
that's right. If you think you can't, you're not going to be able to. That's
and
true.
if you can, you will, right? It's all about mentality, man. Determination, focus, attention, intention. That's all everything is. It's like
Yep.
that's why the placebo effect works. That's why faith healing works. That's why people can focus positive thoughts on rice and it'll grow better, and if they focus negative thoughts it'll turn black. It's our
Right.
thoughts, our energy that affect matter 100%, and we help shape our reality and co-create it based on our level of belief in what we expect to happen.
Right. And speaking of that belief, when I bought my first guitar, it was a box guitar. It was amplified, but that part of it was broke. But within a year, I had never played a chord on a guitar before. Okay, within a
Mm-hmm.
year, I had already formed a makeshift band, playing rhythm guitar and singing. Had all the equipment and everything. Within 2 years, we were going places, and people. I can't really say that we were
But why
great
do
or
you say
nothing
you
like
used to
that,
be a
but
musician then? If you Why do you say you used to be a musician then? That's like riding a bike, man. If you play guitar for 3 years and we're in a band, you pick it up. It doesn't matter if we're Mozart, right?
right.
You don't judge a fish on their ability to climb a tree or a monkey on their ability to swim, right? You just make your art and enjoy yourself, and whoever's going to enjoy it will enjoy it. But as long as you
That's
do.
right. And I still do enjoy playing from time to time, but when you're just playing the four walls, it's not a whole lot of fun. So 30 minutes later, I'm just sick of playing. I'd rather be doing something else,
I like to
But
jam with other people too. I play guitar and I don't play much by myself, so I get it.
yeah. But yeah, I still play, and it's a lot of fun. I was trying to learn Oh Yisrael by Left and Right Ministries. It really good song, really difficult, really good song though. But I picked around with it for a little while. I was going to try to play and sing it, but it's just so much more stuff going on, man. It's not that I've completely lost interest in music, but I'd just much rather be studying the scriptures or something like that than to be playing the four walls. Now, if somebody was here, yeah, I'd happily play all the time, you know.
I
But
and we get pulled in different directions. Our soul kind of tells us, where we got to go and what we got to focus on to figure out the next part of our path and help it unfold. As we discover what truth is for us. But yep, I got about 10 minutes left. If you or anybody that's listening has any questions about anything.
all right, let's look for the for some questions here. Question. This is Fair Yahweh. Welcome, brother. See you jumped in there just a little while ago. I had just shouted everybody out in the chat too. Question: did the guest stay in California following his trip out? Did, I'm guessing did you
Yeah. So I'll tell you
like?
what. Yeah. So they're wondering what happened after I moved out there, right? So we hit it off over the Airbnb vacation, right? And I didn't go back home. No, I didn't. She lived with her mom and her sister. They each had their own rooms in like a 4-bedroom apartment or whatever that they rented, a condo or townhome in Folsom, California. And the plan was to stay there with her while I looked for work, and then eventually we would, find a place. And I'll try to be quick here because I don't want to bore people. But basically, my experience in my employment experience, I don't have a degree, but I've got some very impressive experience on my resume. I've owned businesses. I've worked in the stock market. I've had my Series 7 license where I could sell stocks and bonds. I've employed over 20 people before and had contracts with DirecTV and Walmart and Sam's Club. And that was before COVID and all that. But because I don't have my degree, but I do have all that experience, like McDonald's or something won't hire me if I just need a job for some money because they know I'm way overqualified and I'll quit as soon as I find something better. And some places that will pay me what I deserve, right? They won't hire people without a degree. And especially during COVID and in California, it was very, very difficult for me to find a job. I could not find a job for the life of me. So that put stress on our relationship and on the way her mom and sister viewed me as being there because I couldn't really contribute anything. And eventually that stress that they put uh, that they put on her affected our relationship, and she became. I mean, I don't want to put all of it on her, right? It was like some of it was on me for not being able to deliver and produce and provide and earn my part, but there were a lot of outside, factors that affected that situation. So, what
Yeah.
ended up happening was I just decided I couldn't stay there any longer because there was too much friction. So I willingly left. Um, I didn't want to go back home, so I got on an app called Couchsurfer or couchsurfing.com or something like that, and I just looked for people who were willing to put people up who were for various reasons. Like some people come from other countries to visit America, and while they're here, they don't want to pay for hotels and stuff. So they use this couch surfing app to find people who are maybe from their country who live here and are willing to host them while they're here. And then they know that when they travel to that other country, they've got a host, right? It's kind of like this travel co-op thing, but you can
Right.
use it for, to find a place to stay if you're in a pinch. And that's what I did. It was in Sacramento, California. Went up there, stayed with that guy until there was friction because of similar reasons for my views on certain things, for my passion about how I felt about COVID and stuff. And from there, I put feelers out on Facebook, like, do I know anybody who's got a place for me to stay? And somebody had a place in Tucson, and that's how I ended up in Tucson. I came out there to stay with somebody, not a romantic interest, but just somebody who could help me out for a minute.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I served too. They've used that app and met some people, that couch surfing app. So yeah, um, I
Yeah. I
don't
forgot I
fear.
could put their
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I forgot I could put their messages actually up on the screen there.
Oh, it's cool to
Um,
see it. Yeah.
there was one more. I think I wanted to. Oh, there was one more.
And I don't regret it
Uh,
either. I don't regret
this
it
one.
because if I wouldn't have done it, then I never would have left my little area where I grew up, moved halfway across the country, and had a lot of challenges and grown so much because of it.
Right. Um, just real quick on that. Have you looked into these homesteading places? Um, people have homesteads. They're always needing some help on their farm or their ranch or whatever it
It's
may be.
synchronistically, a lot of people are suggesting that to me lately because I'm in a place right now where, man, I'm just so, and I'm not judging anybody if they don't feel the same way because I realize some people have responsibilities. They have children, they have car payments, they have insurance payments, they have lots of bills and responsibilities. I kind of live a little bit of a more minimalistic life, so I don't have a lot of overhead. And I've grown so disillusioned with how backwards and inverted every single thing about this world is, as far as like America and the media and big corporations and politics on both sides, just wings of the same bird, sides of the same coin. Controlled opposition, just trying to divide and conquer, in my opinion, right? That I'm so jaded by it that I don't want to participate in it any longer. I don't want to work at a corporation and generate revenue for that corporation. They'll pay me less than I'm worth so they can pocket the rest of that profit, right? And then they'll pay me and the government will tax that money, right? And then I'll spend the money that I have left, the little bit that I have left out of that, and then that money will get taxed as well. And all that money just goes straight up the funnel to the top of the pyramid, to the 1% of the population that controls 99% of the money and helps continue our financial enslavement, right? So I want to do something like you suggested, and I've mentioned that to a few people, and um, they've given me some ideas to search that. Yep. Did I lose you?